be on the program again tonight. As always, we hope you're blessed. I want to focus this evening on some events that took place, an event that took place over the past few days. And it's a major event. It was that Great Britain has pulled out of the European Common Market. Now, I'll show you how that relates biblically to the last days and events of which is soon to take place in the world, tragic events, how it relates. But I want you to understand this. I want you to understand that events are taking place now so rapidly. We don't go through the news. I don't go through news articles trying to find something to preach on or something to teach. I would love to just sit down and teach the wonderful things of the Bible, which I am doing, but this deals with prophecy. The reason for it is there are world events that's taking place that is so absolutely biblically clear until you simply cannot let it go. And every week before you finish one, another major world event biblically related is taking place. It is, as I've shared with you in times past, in connection and fulfillment with the prophecies that Jesus spoke of in Matthew chapter 24, where the Lord Jesus was telling us that these particular things was going to come about and would have to happen before the end would come. And in Matthew 24, he tells us that there would be famines and pestilence and earthquakes and divers, which means in different places that never been before. That there would be pestilence, that we would be turning against one another, that there would be an antichrist age and all of this stuff. And he said in verse 8 that these were the beginnings of sorrows in Matthew 24:8. And the word sorrows there is birth pains. What Jesus was likening it to was a woman travailing with child. Not that any of the events that he mentioned were new or something that was just going to be starting to happen before the end came, because earthquakes and famines and pestilence has always been. But he was saying that they would become world stories, that they would become world events, that these wars and rumors of wars and troubles and chaotic times would take place one behind the other as a woman travailing with a child, until finally it's one massive pain and a child is born. The world is impregnated now with the sorrows of which the Lord spoke of. And it's not too long, not too far off, before this earth is going to give birth to its child. The child of this world and the child of these troubled times and these chaotic periods of which we're living in and going through, that child is going to be Antichrist. The world gets itself into this trouble by the rejection of God and finds itself at the breaking point, and then prays and longs for some man to come along and solve the problem. And that is exactly what is taking place right here and right now as we live. We're seeing these events take place and do so at in such rapid fashion till it is almost impossible to even keep up with them. Nonetheless, this past week, a move took place in Great Britain that really shook up things. And the move itself is not as important as the news headlines that followed. After Great Britain pulled out of the European Common Market because they had lost their borders, because they had lost control of their country, because laws was being made now by people outside of Britain that they didn't even know who they was. Bureaucrats killing the country, killing their way of life, killing their history, destroying their country. And the headlines that followed after Britain pulled out of it was that a massive blow has been dealt to the one world order, to the globalists and to the global elites. A tragic blow has been dealt to them. The problem is this. Great Britain has already pulled out of the European Common Market, and now America, as you see with the Trump movement, is beginning to focus again on our borders, upon our nation, and putting America first. So there is a movement that is taking place around the world, but not just around the world, to cut itself off from this globalism that's taking place. And the two leading nations, America and Great Britain, can cause great harm to the global elite's desire to create their world order. And we are much, much further down the road into that global order and that one worldism that the Bible spoke of Antichrist ruling over than you or me, either one, could possibly even know. There's a whole lot of people who's done a whole lot of studying and a whole lot of programs on the world order, but you're further than even they know. It's like science being revealed to you, and you think you see a great big picture, but science and technology that's revealed to you ain't a drop in the bucket to what's out there. We are so much further down the road to this globalism, countries with no borders, the destruction of the United States of America, Britain, all the powers of the world destroyed as these global elitists wants to conquer the world. They are Luciferian. They are the devil's children. Make no mistake about that. Now, what is important about Great Britain breaking out and what's taking place now in America with what they call the Trump movement, America First, secure ourselves, is that Ephraim has rebelled. Now, for those of you that's not familiar with the tribes of Israel and what those tribes represent and what actually happened with Israel, those words means very little to you. Ephraim has rebelled. Here's what happened. Most people don't realize today that Israel is two nations and was two nations. Israel was divided. Now, I don't have time to go through this in graphic detail, but I do have it on CDs. I don't busy myself trying to sell you anything, but this will do you a world of good, and it'll make all the sense in the world out of what I'm telling you now. It's the lost tribes of Israel, and proving that America is a major portion of the house of Israel. This is why America is not found in the Bible. Ethiopia is there, Libya is there, Germany is there, Turkey is there, Egypt is there, Palestine is there, Israel is there, all around the world. And speaking of these nations, Russia in the last days, all of them are there. It is insane to think that the world's greatest superpower, the world's greatest Christian nation, the nation that has sown the seeds of Christ throughout the entire world, would simply not even be mentioned in the Bible. The reason America is not mentioned in the Bible is because America is the portion of the house of Israel, and the Bible said Israel would lose their identity, the 10 tribes. Here's how it breaks down. Israel was one nation. Whenever King Solomon's son Rehoboam began to take over, Israel had been taxed so heavily until there was a revolt in the land. He took counsel with the old men. The old men said, "Cut the taxes off of the people. And if you do so, they will serve you and serve you gladly." Then he took counsel with the young people, and the young people said, "Add more taxes to them, put the yoke tighter around their neck." And Rehoboam, Solomon's son, went with the younger people, and it caused a revolt, and Israel split. In other passages of the Bible tells us that this was God's will. It's what God wanted. When Israel split, 10 tribes went up into Samaria, and 2 tribes remained in Judea, in what we know as Israel today. The 10 tribes that went up into Samaria became known as the house of Israel, named nationally designated. As you read through the Bible, you will find that God sent messengers and prophets to Judah. Then he sent them to Israel. He sent them to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He sent them to the Jews, always dividing and separating the two. There was a split. Israel was then controlled by 2 different kings in 2 different places. Rehoboam, the 2 tribes that remained in Judea, which was Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin, and the tribe of Judah. And the 10 tribes was under Jeroboam that moved up into Samaria. The 10 tribes became known as Ephraim, the tribe of Ephraim. Ephraim was the dominant tribe. The tribes that remained in Judea, Benjamin and Judah, and there was some from each group that migrated back and forth, but predominantly 2 tribes, Judah and Benjamin, stayed in Jerusalem, and the 10 tribes went up into Samaria. The 2 tribes that stayed in Jerusalem was Judah, would come under the name Judah, which were the Jews. Again, few people recognize and realize a simple biblical fact that cannot be denied or refuted by anyone anywhere. The Bible makes it absolutely clear. They do not realize that Israel is not Jews. Israel was made up of 12 tribes. 1 tribe of the 12, 1/12 of Israel, are Jews. The tribe of Judah are Jews. Judah, Jew. Jew became a shortened name, a nickname. The Jews, the Judaites. Issachar, they're not Jews. Zebulon's not Jews. Ephraim's not Jews. Only one tribe of Israel are Jews, those that come from the tribe of Judah, and that only. Now, as Ephraim now, as it was called, the 10 tribes up north, ruled by one king, the 2 tribes in Judea, ruled by another king, the 2 nations actually went to war against each other. God said it was His will that they had been separated. While the house of Israel, nationally known, the house of Israel, was in Samaria, they went into idolatry. And the Assyrian army conquered them, and the Bible prophesied that the 10 tribes would become the scattered tribes of Israel, and they would be scattered across the entire earth, and that they would lose their identity. But in the end, that identity would come back to them, and they would know once again who they was. Syria conquered the 10 tribes. Syria did not conquer Judah or Jerusalem. As we see the 10 tribes of Israel beginning to lose their identity, the last place we see them and know who they are then being called the sons of Omri. The sons of Omri. Omri was the king, was the leader of Syria that had conquered them, and they were already now taking on their name. As they were scattered throughout the world, they migrated into what is, we know today, Great Britain. Multitudes of scriptures. I urge you to get it's 12 shows, 12 audios on 3 or either 4 CDs. It's very old, but it is the most detailed presentation of this subject, America being the lost house of Israel. It is detailed, multiple scriptures, and history, more scriptures than you can even imagine. So I would encourage you to get it. Anyhow, they went into Great Britain, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The word brith in the Hebrew is the word for covenant. The word ish in Hebrew is the word for man. British means covenant man, covenant people. The Bible told us that David would never want for a man to sit upon his throne, and that there would be a descendant of David upon the throne of David until the Lord Jesus returned. So we have to look. Where do we find kings today? The Bible said that they would be in the Isles, the British Isles. We look for a king that still reigns today. We look for him to be in the Isles. The Bible said that they would become a multitude of nations, and that they would possess the gates of all of their enemies, and that the sun, as it was said, would never set on the British Empire. Great Britain did that. The stone of destiny, that is the stone that Jacob laid his head on, the stone that was smitten in the wilderness that brought forth the water, the stone that every Israelite king has ever been coronated over. That stone has been in Westminster Abbey, has been in the confines of England. That's where it's at. The English kings has been sworn in over that very stone, the Liafel. Whenever you hear the oath and the swearing in of the King of England, and you read what is said there for their coronation as compared to what's said with Israel's, exactly the same. British, that is covenant people, covenant men. The book of Hosea tells us that they would go there, and that where they would be called, no longer be called God's people, and that God would not be their God. In the book of Hosea, God said, now the people that was not my people, ye shall be my people, and I shall be your God. Meaning that there would be a revival among the 10 tribes of Israel, now scattered, and they would accept the gospel that the Jews would reject. So when Jesus came into the world, right before he was getting ready to leave, as he administered to his own, he said, I came unto my own, but my own received me not. He was talking about the Jews. He was in Palestine. He was with Judah. Jesus was of the tribe of Judah. And he said, I came to my own, but my own received me not. Jesus then said to his disciples, therefore, take this message, take this gospel to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The Jews had rejected it. The lost house of Israel that had now been scattered, that had migrated primarily into Great Britain, now Ephraim, The disciples was told to carry the gospel to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the nationally designated name. They knew where they was, and they took the gospel to them. And as it says in the book of Hosea, there in those isles, they received God, revival took place, and the people who God had cut off and was no longer their God, God now said, you are my people, and I am your God. Ephraim was the younger of the two, between Ephraim and Manasseh. It was quite a shock whenever Jacob gave to Ephraim this multitude of nations. Ye shall be a multitude of nations, possessing the gates of your enemy. And Manasseh, who was the elder, who said, look, I'm the elder, I'm supposed to get the greater blessings. Jacob then says, don't worry, you will become a singular great nation. That is America. And he said, from you, the salvation of my gospel, the gospel of my salvation, shall be carried unto the Gentiles. 98% of all Bible societies that gave Christ to the entire world come from the shores of the United States of America. Manasseh, the single great nation that broke off from Ephraim in the British Isles among the covenant people and became their own Christian nation and the greatest nation the world has ever known, and carried the light of the gospel of God unto the Gentiles, the non-Israelites. Why in the world would America be the greatest proponents, the greatest teachers of the God of Israel? It is because America is the house of Israel. This brings us to the event then that took place, and I've just touched on this. Again, please order the tapes, and you know that if you've watched the program, I spend no time trying to sell you anything or anything of that nature. But until you know who the house of Israel is, what the house of Israel is, when you understand that the Jews are not all of Israel, you cannot possibly understand Bible prophecy, nor will the events that took place last week with Great Britain, Ephraim, rebelling against this world order and pulling themselves out of that European common market, and the same drive taking place now in Manasseh, the United States of America, to do the same. It is going to bring us into trouble such as you have never known. So get the Lost Tribes of Israel. It's 12 teachings on 3 or either 4 CDs. It's been a long time, so I don't remember any. It's 12 teachings, detailed, more detailed than you ever heard in your life. Now, with that said, you must understand this. Whenever they pulled out, whenever Ephraim pulled out of this common market, this globalism, all of the headlines that followed was that the global order and the global elitists and the New World Order has taken a major blow. These are people now who have well entrenched themselves in the nations of the earth, and their way to create this borderless world that is falling into the hands of Antichrist. These people have all the power in the world and indeed rule the world. Now, they are simply not going to allow this to happen. They are not going to allow America and Great Britain to destroy what they have now firmly put into place. What they will use is war. The people of Ephraim, the people of Great Britain, has said, we've had enough. We've had enough of globalism. We've had enough of being ruled by people outside of us. We have had enough now of our borders being open and the children of Ishmael entering into our countries, killing our children, killing our people, ruining our society, taking over our society and destroying it. We will have no more of it. Same thing is beginning to take place in America. We are tired of the Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites are those that come from Ishmael, those of the Muslim nations and the Muslim tribes. I understand that there is a good Muslim person in the world, but let me tell you something. Christianity has never done what you see being done now. We don't kill other denominations, and we don't kill people for what they believe or don't believe. It's just that simple. And if a Christian goes and bombs or kills somebody, there is not one Christian church in America that will not come out instantly condemning those actions to the highest level. We would like to see some of that among the good Muslims. We would like to hear you say that you are not of that and that is not your religion. We would like to hear that. It is certainly what Christians would do. Nonetheless, America, Ephraim, Manasseh, now pulling out of this system. The problem now is the overrunning of the Ishmaelites. That's what the problem is. I am sorry. The problem is that Muslims is entering into Britain, destroying the language, destroying the lives, killing, bombing, and murdering people. The same thing is happening here. It is world terrorism by radical Islam, the Ishmaelites. How did it all come about? How is World War coming? And the global elites are going to be the one to bring it in, because they are not going to let this movement take place to where we break loose and mess up their world order. It's simply not going to happen. So they're going to do what they have to do to secure it. They will try to threaten. They will try to financially break. They will try to harm globally and all the way. But when it does not work, and when they see the world order being shaken, and with Great Britain and America coming out of it, they will cause the war of Ezekiel 38 and 39 to take place. What is the war of Ezekiel 38 and 39? Very simple. All you got to do is go back to the history of the Bible and know why the Third World War is going to happen, who it involves, and why there's never been peace in the Middle East. Very simple. God made a promise to Abraham and Sarah that they would have a child. They lost faith in that promise. They got too old. Sarah's womb was barren. Abraham was now too old. And they did not believe God could bring the promise about. So Sarah told Abraham to go in unto his handmaiden Hagar. And when he did, Hagar conceived child and produced Ishmael. Ishmael then became the oldest son of Abraham. But he was not the promised son. The promised son was coming through Sarah. Finally, it took place, and it did as God had promised, and the miracle took place, and Sarah gave birth to Isaac. Isaac then received the blessings. But the Ishmaelites and Ishmael was filled with envy, because Ishmael was saying, I'm the oldest son. The Bible and everything else says, I inherit the blessings and the birthright. I'm the oldest son. But he was not the promised son. So that generation of Ishmaelites hated Isaac and his children. And they tried to kill him. And they taught their next generation to attack the sons of Isaac and kill them, because they stole their birthright. And then the next generation, and then the next generation, all the way up to this present day and this present hour. This is why it cannot be stopped. This is why no government can negotiate the peace of the Middle East. Because Ishmael believes his birthright was stolen and believes it all belongs to him, and he's attacking the sons of Jacob, the sons of Isaac. He's attacking. He's never stopped attacking. He's attacking now. And that is exactly what it is. And as we look at World War III, you find very simply in Ezekiel 38, verse 5, some of the names of the nations that was given. That it will be Togarmah, Turkey, that it will be parts of Germany, that it will be Libya, that it will be Ethiopia. You find all these nations mentioned in connection to the Third World War. All of the Ishmaelite kingdoms and all of the people who side with them, mostly the atheistic countries, against the children of Jacob. This is why in Jeremiah chapter 30, as it tells of this devastating war and trouble, it calls it the time of Jacob's trouble, the time of Israel's trouble. It is when the house of Israel will be attacked, because we have allowed this nation to be weakened by allowing an Ishmaelite to rule over us. He has broken us down militarily. He has allowed the Ishmaelite kingdoms to build up to the place now to where before this global order is stopped, there will be war. World War III is nothing but the end of the matter that took place so long ago in the tent with Abraham and Hagar as he got out of the will of God, and the consequences we are still suffering and paying today. World War III will be the Islamic nations, the children of Ishmael, at world war with the sons of Jacob, and it will be the time of Jacob or Israel's trouble. That's what the events that took place just the other day is telling us. Ephraim hath rebelled, and indeed they have. And trust me, before the global elitist allows this global order to crumble, because the two powerfulest nations is now coming out of it, they will cause the Third World War to take place so that they can establish this satanic, luciferic government of world control. And that is exactly what is happening, and that is what is meant, and that is what the signs of Great Britain pulling out. Ephraim has rebelled. Now, with that said, I hate to take any time advertising this, but we've got the camp meeting coming up this month, actually. It's going to be the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. We will have a lot of fun fellowshipping Friday night. There will be singing, and I will deliver a message that night. I'm going to get to meet a bunch of you. Hopefully you'll come from all parts of the country. We're hearing from a lot of people now. We want to be with you, we want to see you. We'll be eating at the church after services Friday night. Then Saturday, we'll get together 10 or so, and there'll be a few events for the children that comes, so old sack races and what we call a dollar catch and an egg catch. And then at 3 o'clock we'll separate, and you can go on back and eat and get ready for the 6 o'clock service. The 6 o'clock service Saturday night, the 30th. I've been challenged to a debate by a Church of Christ apologist that goes all through the nation debating issues for the Church of Christ. And he has challenged me to a debate on women preachers and women speaking in, having the right or not having the right to speak in the congregations or in the assembly. That'll be a debate Saturday night at 6 o'clock is when it will start. And then Sunday we will have our regular services that will start at 11 o'clock that morning. And hopefully just a whole bunch of fellowship. Better be willing to stay up some late hours, but we'll be together. We'll get to meet each other, do a whole bunch of Bible talking, and I think it'll be a whole bunch of fun. Camp meeting coming up July the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. I'm looking forward to you being there. Make an effort to get out and come, and let's make it a good day, a good weekend for us all. Till the next time, God keep you and bless you. I love you in the Lord.
He's got a cross on his windshield, a Bible